Today's date is December 6, 2017. My lesson is titled Freeing the Distinct. The word distinguish in the dictionary, it says distinguish, to perceive as being different or distinct, to perceive distinctly, discern, to make noticeable or different, to be set apart. And it's funny because when I read that, I remember the Hebrew word kadash, to be set apart. And it's really showing that you're going to be, as Israel, different before the Most High than the other nations of the earth. But I looked up the word distinct as well, and it says readily distinguishable from all others, discrete, easily perceived by the senses or intellect. It's clear. It's got something that's got a distinct flavor is what it's talking about. Clearly defined, unquestionable. So as we see, distinct is talking about something that is different from what else is around it. It can be clearly seen, as it says here, readily distinguishable. I was sitting here thinking that sometimes we feel so inadequate in different ways, and we feel like there's certain changes we cannot make, and we wonder how some other people have done it. We don't know quite how some people managed to make a difference in their own lives and in the lives of others. We can't understand how some people find movement when we seem to be stuck. And it can be difficult in some people's lives to get some kind of movement. You know, as I had Joseph on my mind earlier today, and I noted that he was stuck, as we all know, in a situation because he was, he got a bad deal because the actions of his brothers, and they threw him in this pit, eventually went into Egypt as a slave, and he was stuck in that situation, couldn't do much. And it's like every time he got a little freedom, it seemed to turn into, it just kind of started over. He was in the pit, took him out, but only to put him, with this group of people that was on their way to Egypt to sell him as a slave. And he went there, and the whole deal is serving. And then he gets in trouble again, he's back down again and goes into prison. Then he eventually comes up out of that. And sometimes we're missing that more times than not, the Creator is dealing with us in ways that we don't understand. It's very easy to read the scriptures and tell how this or that happened to someone and what they went through and so on. But we can't seem to understand what's going on in our lives, because if no one is writing a Bible for you, or if no one is giving you writing a Torah for you today about your own life, you cannot tell that the Creator is doing something in your life. But I will introduce to you here that no one prior to what we read of in the scriptures was reading a Bible or had a Torah scroll in front of them at the start. And maybe just a taste of something else I'm working on entitled God Must Speak. And I'm pointing out that Adam did not have a Torah. And all the people listed after him did not have a Torah at first until it kicked in. And then we see that they were reading and writing something from the Most High. And so, if you are going to walk with the Creator, you have to understand that it is possible for you to still find yourself walking in the will of the Most High for your life. even when you can't figure out what's going on in your life. Because the people in the scriptures had to figure out what to do, how to do it, and how to move through life with the Most High that they trusted in before they got a book. But we've got all these smaller books in this one bigger binding that we call the Bible, and we're struggling with how to move through life. And so a lot of us are just shut up. We don't know how to express ourselves because we don't know how to just be open to the Creator expressing Himself in our life and in our minds and in our thoughts. And that's where your own expression is going to come out, where you can move through the things of the Most High in your life and move through the different stages in your life that you need to. Now, if I look here at Joseph here, let's look in Genesis chapter 42, and certainly we do understand, Joseph, slave, went into Egypt and was a slave there. And then the Most High lifted him up out of that slave condition, turned his life around. In order to do what the Most High wants you to do in this life, you have to move to the place where you become comfortable in your mind with being you. You are not the next person beside you for a reason. And Elijah didn't try to do all the things that Moses did. Jeremiah didn't function just like Elisha did. So you gotta just come to terms with being you in order for you to become the person the Most High is flashing before your eyes, so to speak, that you should be. The thoughts that you are having about what your life should be like, you're having those thoughts because the Creator put it inside of you. And He put it inside of you in a way where only you can quite feel what you're feeling and express what you are feeling and live it out the way that you can. Someone else will take your thoughts and do something else with it, but only you can do it just the way you can and be as distinct as you can be in expressing what the Creator made you to be. Free that which is distinct inside of you instead of continuing to stifle that thing inside of you and hold it back. Let your individuality come out. Become you. Become the dream that you have and not just simply have a dream. Become the end product of that which is in your mind. Because that's the reason why it's in your mind. Notice how the Creator made the things that He made in Genesis chapter 1. He made it based on what was in His mind. And then He looked at the end product and realized that it is just what was in His mind, and He said it was good. You're not going to get to the place where you say it was good and have that fulfillment in your life if you don't do the things that are in your mind. Genesis 41 in verse 8. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled. That's the Pharaoh, because he had a dream. And he sent and called for all the magicians. So he's exhausting his resources, might I say, for want of a better way of putting it, in terms of getting an answer for the dilemma that he was having. So he sent for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. So they're telling you all the magicians and all the wise men, they're letting you know everyone was summoned. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Verse 14, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh. Now, sometimes we don't know quite what to do because we're told you need to wear your beard, and here is Joseph shaving his beard to go in front of the Pharaoh. And so all I can see when I look at the text is that in order to be blessed and to begin to move up the ladder, so to speak, he begins to shave his beard and act unlike what we are told a Hebrew should. Let's run over to Genesis chapter 45 in verse 4. And Joseph said unto his brethren, because remember, by this time now his brothers are coming and he's about to tell them who he really is. And Joseph said unto his brethren, come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Maybe we just have a little too much sameness sometimes. You look at all these people saying, we're Israelites, we own the Bible. And it's like, if we don't tell everything just the way the next person is, like we don't feel like we're saved or something. If we don't feel we're just starting another camp or doing it just like the other, it's like we don't feel like we're in this. It's like we just don't understand that we have too much sameness. Who will appeal to certain other groups of people if they're all so same and they're doing everything just the way? Because sometimes as Israelites, our presentation just is not where it needs to be in some cases in order to attract the proper attention that people in our condition might need. But I'm seeing here that Joseph didn't seem to have that kind of problem. Sameness kind of just makes you like a clone, and it squashes the presence of the Most High from really being expressed in your life. Sameness, it's definitely going to limit you in your reach that you can have. If you're only just being just like and doing just like your leader or your mentor. But you really should be using your own distinct flavor. Show your own difference, your own expression, because it is needed. Upon analyzing what I have seen so far of the Israelite movement coming out of the Christian church, I can see somehow that the Torah is presented in a way, not by everyone, but by enough of us, to try to push for some sameness that we are, and we try to badger each other over the head with this law said this, and you got to do this, whatever. Everybody's got to look the same, like you're some kind of a clone. But when I read the Torah for myself, I'm seeing that the different people were expressing themselves different. Of course, there were some common things with the laws that they kept and so on. But people weren't walking around, it seemed to me, just afraid of the law, to the point where they could not express themselves. People get afraid when you start to be distinct in certain things and you just express the way you feel it and you express whatever. People want to just like send you to hell right away in a hurry. Let's jumpstart hell before the Most High is ready for it. According to the Christian thinking, before he's ready to send people to hell. Let's jumpstart hell right now and send this or that person to hell because they're just too different. We don't want that around here. But I noticed that Methuselah, Abraham, and later people, Isaac, Jacob, Elijah, all these people, they don't necessarily kind of feel like they got to do things just the way Adam did it, or just the way the next person before them did it. Like, they were one people with the same laws and practices, but outside of that, they had their own uniqueness that they brought to the table, might I say. And they weren't usually concerned that you might not like me if I express like this, so I'm going to just sound just like you. I'm going to do everything just the way you did it, and so on. Different times might call for different strategies, for a restructuring of our thoughts and a redesigning of our presentation to the world around us that's listening. Because it's not just black people, quote unquote, black people, that's going to be listening to you and watching all these people saying that they're the Israelites. Everybody is going to be watching you. Your friends are going to be watching you. Your enemies are going to be watching you. In fact, the Most High already said Israel is like a speckled bird, and all the nations around are just coming just to see if they can just devour. You're already set to be distinct. So why would you think that in any kind of way you can be other than that? You have to show your difference and express the uniqueness that the Creator put inside of you. It's that uniqueness that will make Israel, even in captivity, stand out. Even in the curses of Deuteronomy 28, it says you are going to be like a wonder. What you're going through is going to be like a sign and a wonder upon you, that people are going to look upon you in the lands of your captivities and say, man, this people is really different. How did this happen to them? This is a different kind of people. The very punishment that you go through is going to be a sign that you are a different kind of people that's under some punishment from the Creator. So it seems like even in a curse, your difference is supposed to be seen. Free the distinct in you. Many of us can understand that when we look back in our lives, there are some things we were not able to accomplish because we just did not do what we really felt driven to do. No one is supposed to control you when it comes to what the Creator wants you to do, to the point where you cannot express what is inside of you. I don't care what laws you want to read to me from no scripture. If the Creator puts something inside of you, you should be able to tell that. I told you at the start, before there was a Bible and before there was a written Torah, the people in the Bible pleased the Most High. And they did it their way. If your difference cannot come out of you where you're at in life, maybe you just have to rethink things. You got to do something different or move into another area of your life to get moving. But you've got to move now. You have to reshape some things in your life, reshape some relationships, reshape some situation in your life. But you must do something to allow the expression of the divine in you that was placed in you and should not be squashed any longer. You've got to do something right now. You might have some friends around you and you know they're holding you back. Sometimes you just can't, some people just will keep holding onto you because they love the sameness and you love it too. But when it's time to go, you've got to say, I love the time that we collaborated together, but destiny calls me right now. I hear a voice and I must go. Scriptures are telling us that Abraham heard a voice, left his father's house and the people who were around him. Had he not done that, we would not have the story of what was accomplished in his life. Moses got an instruction and left Midian. These people's lives are telling us that when they got that call, without reading in a Bible that God is calling me, they got up and they responded to that call, and they never needed a Torah to say, the Most High is dealing with you with this. It got written after the fact. These people had to look at what's in their life. Abraham just didn't say to himself, I'm not going to move because I hear a voice, but it's just me and I'm not going to do anything. But you have sat for years and say, it's just me, it's just my voice, it's just whatever. When the people that you call your forefathers had to deal with a voice and decide on the spot, this is the voice of the Creator. They didn't have a Bible at first. They didn't have a Torah to tell them how to detect and how to define the voice of the Most High and how to tell that this is the one who created all things. They heard the voice and they could tell. You're going to say, oh, because it was old times. Time is just time. And the Creator does not change no matter which point in time He shows up. If He comes into your life, that's the way He came into somebody else's life before. He just comes with presence. And when you feel certain kinds of presence, if you don't know, then you need to go and relearn some basic things about hearing a voice that is not your own. And your first and primary learning should come not from the pages of the book. The book is a guide. You have a heart. You have a mind. You're telling me if somehow you got stranded on some faraway place where they don't have the Bible circulating right now, and somehow you got stuck there because no one has a Bible there, no one is going to hear from the Most High if you tell them. If you know the Torah and you go and you teach it to those people who never read a Bible before, who never held a copy of a Torah or saw one, and then 20 years from now, you tell the story of how you were stuck in that place and you shared the word of the Most High and people started to turn to the Most High and keep His Torah and so on. What are you really saying to the rest of us? You are saying that those people who never saw a copy of the scrolls had to decide on the spot that they were hearing the voice of the Most High through what you were sharing with them. People can hear because of what the Most High is doing in their heart. Please reread your Bible. So Abraham heard a voice and he got up. Moses, he got his instruction as well and heard a voice and he left. But Joseph, he didn't hear a voice in quite the same way as they too did. Instead, he got a dream. And the Most High moved him into His mission in this life. You may not even choose to move right away because you're not sure, you don't understand things properly and so on. So you may not choose the moving, but if you are moved out of place against your will, look for the Most High in your situation, because the power that made the heaven and the earth strategizes in ways that you can never plan yourself well enough to ensure that your difference makes you so distinct, and it's what people are looking for. It's the Most High who strategizes all of that. And how is He going to come to you? Tell me how. Think about it for yourself. How is He going to approach you? You've got to understand that the approach that the Most High is going to have with you is going to be so strong and welling up in your life, and it's going to keep coming in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out throughout your life. You have to learn that this thing isn't just coming in and out of my life for no reason. But we have been taught to ignore the impressions inside of us because we must read it in a book, or we must already be great in order to tell, or we must have someone prophesied into us in order to know. When the Most High is speaking to so many of us, and if we can just listen to that voice and that prompting, that's exactly what the people did in old times. And because we read of elaborate stories of the bush and the fire and so on, we feel if it doesn't happen like that. And because the last page was written, we say, God doesn't deal with people like that. Maybe He doesn't deal with you. He's sure enough dealing with some other people though. So a vision that comes to you is going to annoy you until you give in. A mission is going to drive you crazy till you do it. A fire that burns inside of you will continue to burn like a real fire that you get up to put out, and then you realize you can't put it out because this one is lit by the Creator. You know, all those things that you say, you just got this strong feeling, this strong dream that for years just will not leave you alone. That's a fire lit by the Creator. But in order to carry it out, you've got to do it in your kind of way, because each of us, we have our own individual styles and approach to different things that we work on in life, different projects and so on. It's just you. You just got to be you and let it come out. Some of us are not able to step into what the Most High wants because we're trying to be like the next person around us. We're trying to do it just the way our mentor said. We're trying to do it just the way our teacher said it should be done. And you cannot move into doing what you should do because you are not being your own self. Just like David, he would not have accomplished this fight with the giant Goliath if he was wearing clothes like somebody else was wearing the armor like others were wearing. Maybe you have failed because you weren't being you. It's not that it was not the Most High. People are going to curse you and put you down. I knew that wasn't of God. I knew that sucker wasn't called by the Most High. No, maybe you just failed at it at that moment, at that time in your life, because you weren't being you. And your creativity could not come out to allow the thing to flourish, because the Most High is saying, be you when you do this and the blessing will be upon it. But because you were trying to do it just the way they told you, it could not be done. Because the Most High is calling you, He's not calling them to do what's in you. He's calling you to do what's in you with your individuality, with your distinctive creativity. That's who He's calling. So Joseph, when I look at him, he didn't wonder, how am I going to squash this clear feeling inside of me to do whatever? How am I going to stop it because people might just think I stand out too much, or I look strange, or I interpret this different and I see things different and so on? The only reason why he got to the place where he was getting was because when the Pharaoh had a dream and no one else could do it, Joseph was so distinct among all the people there in Egypt, among all the wise men, above all the magicians. He was so distinct among all the priests and all the pagan crafts and secret societies and whatever. He was so distinct among all of them that he stood out. He could see things the others could not see. He had a word that was going to be a different kind of revelation, and that was going to be a different kind of expression than what the other magicians and priests could express. He could look at the word and decide that this is what it means in your dream. His individuality said, I can do this. But if he thought he had to be the same as all the magicians and all the wise men, he would have convinced himself, I can't do this. Not me. You see, when you try to be a clone of the person who taught you and raised you up, you are not ready yet for the next move of the Most High in your life. He's not calling for junior to come. He's calling for you to become senior. So Joseph didn't say, I sound different, I interpret different, I look at the scripture different, I can do this and whatever. And so because of that, I can't go ahead and move forward with it because people are going to hate me, they're going to cuss me out, they're going to just stop me, they're going to just make sure that people just hate me and can't stand me. Joseph said, I'm not going to let any of that, I don't care if their jealousy reaches up to the sky. I'm going to do what I know how to do. I can interpret this thing because the Most High is with me and He gives me answers, and I'm just going to put it out there and let my individuality come out, and my dream teaching is going to be distinct from anything you ever heard up in this place called Egypt, where all the strong men are and all the wise men are and all the scientists are who can look into the stars and see everything. I'm going to be so distinct in the way I move for the Most High that you're going to see something in Egypt that was never seen before. I am Joseph. And so Joseph didn't stay there saying, I'm not going to step out because I'm just so concerned about what people are going to think and the jealousy and how they're going to hate me and how they're going to talk about me and say I'm going off the script. Joseph didn't say, I'm just going to stay right where I am down here in prison because if I step out, I'm going to move up the ladder and I'm not going to look like a Hebrew anymore. He says, no, they like the beards, but I'm going to shave my beard. You're going to tell me, you're not Hebrew because you shave your beard. Joseph said, the king wants to see me. He got up and he shaved his beard. He wasn't worrying, I don't look like a Hebrew because, you don't have no beard. You don't look like a Hebrew. When you look at Joseph, all you could see was an Egyptian. He don't look like a Hebrew because he don't have no beard. He don't look like a Hebrew because he's got Egyptian clothing. He don't look like Hebrew. He don't sound like Hebrew. He don't talk like Hebrew. He's not speaking the Hebrew like the Hebrew should. But Joseph said, I'm not going to let anything about how I look and how I present myself stop me from freeing the distinct inside of me, from freeing the divine inside of me. I'm going to be what the Most High has put in me to express, and anywhere I am, it's going to come out. If I'm in the middle and the throes of Egypt, it's going to come out. No matter how I look, what I wear, I'm going to be what the Most High called me to be. So here is a blessing and a move of the Most High that's supposed to be Hebrew, but it looks Egyptian. It's supposed to be looking set apart, but it looks pagan. He's supposed to have a set apart wife, but he marries wives of pagan priests. But man said, I will free the distinct inside of me. It doesn't matter to me, what you think. My wife might not look Hebrew to you, but she is my blessing from the Creator. The divine has blessed me and put her in my life. My dream interpretation might not sound holy enough to you, but this is what the divine gave to me. The Most High, He put this word in me. I can do this. And these clothes sure don't look set apart, but my heart is set apart to the Most High. So quit worrying what people think about you. And I'm telling you, free that distinct call in your life. You might not look or sound like you're Israel, but free that call in your life. Free the distinct. Let that distinguishing mark inside of you that lets everybody know the Creator is dealing with you. Let it be expressed. Leave the ones on the side saying and heckling at you and whatever. Leave them there and you move on and do what the Most High has called you to do. And that's what Joseph was thinking like. That's what the people in the Bible thought like. That's how they thought. And so Joseph might have well said to us, I don't look like Israel. I don't look like your brother, but I am Joseph. Your Creator-given distinction that makes you look different and act different and see things different and interpret things different and move different and plan different and strategize different is not a curse in your life. Instead, it is your difference that will take you to the next stage in your life, that will bring you into the freedom that you desire, and that will bring you right smack dab into the throes of what the Most High wants to do in your life, because that distinction among all the people around you is because of your calling.